Most people picture biblical prophets as distant poets writing safely from their desks, but Isaiah's ministry was a visceral, physical ordeal carried out in peril. God commanded Isaiah to use his own family to broadcast the fate of the nation. He instructed the prophet to give his children names that served as walking declarations of doom and hope. Before his second son was even conceived, Isaiah was told to write the name Maher Shalal Hashbaz, meaning swift to the plunder, speedy to the prey, on a large tablet. This was a public act witnessed by local leaders, ensuring that every time the boy was called, the community heard a warning of incoming invasion. The warnings went far beyond his children. When the kingdom of Judah sought a military alliance with Egypt, God ordered Isaiah to remove his rough sackcloth garments and his sandals. He walked stripped and barefoot through the streets of Jerusalem every day for 3 years. It was a sustained, public sign meant to draw constant stares and mockery, forcing the people to physically see the degraded future of the allies they were trusting for protection. Isaiah did not preach his warnings from a place of comfort. His body and his household became the literal sermon for an entire nation. But that lifelong devotion ended in violence. During the reign of King Manasseh, one of the most wicked rulers in Judah's history, the crown turned against the prophets. Ancient rabbinical and early Christian traditions, referenced in the New Testament book of Hebrews, record that Isaiah fled the purge and hid inside the hollow trunk of a cedar tree. Manasseh's men discovered him and ordered the tree sawn in half, with the prophet still inside. The man who spent 40 years speaking for God, who recorded a vision of the throne room of heaven, spent his final moments inside the darkness of a tree trunk. 2 millennia later, in 1947, a Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad ed-Dib was searching for a stray goat near the Dead Sea. He tossed a rock into a cave, heard the sound of shattering pottery, and discovered a collection of scrolls that had been hidden for 2,000 years. Inside an earthenware jar was the Great Isaiah Scroll. It was a complete 24-foot document containing all 66 chapters of Isaiah, and it predated all known Hebrew manuscripts by 1,000 years. For over 2 centuries, many academics have argued that the book of Isaiah was the work of multiple authors writing in different eras, but the physical evidence of the scroll contradicts this. Chapter 40 begins on the same column where chapter 39 ends. There is no gap, no scribal marking, and no break to suggest the ancient copyist saw these as separate documents. Maintaining single authorship is significant because of the predictions the text makes. Isaiah names a Persian king, Cyrus, and calls him God's anointed deliverer. Isaiah wrote this while Babylon was still the dominant world power, more than a century before Cyrus was born. The historical record matches the prophecy. This clay artifact, the Cyrus cylinder, confirms that after conquering Babylon, Cyrus issued a decree allowing displaced peoples to return home, the exact event Isaiah described. A king could kill the prophet, but his words survived empires, proving to be as indestructible as the message they carried. The early Christian church referred to Isaiah as the fifth gospel because of its detailed descriptions of a suffering servant who is pierced, crushed, and assigned a grave. The Great Isaiah Scroll contains a specific detail buried in verse 11, a 3-letter word missing from the traditional Hebrew text used for centuries. The standard text says, "The servant shall see the travail of his soul and be satisfied." But the older Dead Sea version includes the Hebrew word or, which means light. The phrase reads, "Out of his anguish he shall see light." The text follows a specific sequence. The servant is killed, he is assigned a grave, and then, according to this older manuscript, he sees light. Isaiah described a resurrection. This hope was not a later addition to the text. It was a promise kept safe in a clay jar for 2,000 years, waiting to be uncovered. This promise travels unbroken through the entire Bible. The guarantee that God will wipe away every tear and swallow up death doesn't originate in the final pages of Revelation. It starts in Isaiah chapter 25, written during a time of war and national destruction. This shift moves the narrative from the darkness of execution and exile toward the promise of light breaking through the grave. Isaiah sacrificed his own body to live out fragments of the future. He left behind a preserved scroll to show every generation that followed. This story does not end in a tomb. It ends